In this video, our learning goal will be to be able to calculate the midpoint. So for starters, what on earth is a midpoint? So if I draw a diagram, and again, I'm not using a ruler, I know, and I have 2 points. This is point A, this is point B. The midpoint is simply halfway. And if that makes sense, if you want to go to the middle, it's halfway. So the midpoint is in the middle of 2 points. Now it's important to understand that the midpoint is exactly that. It is a point or coordinate. So your answer isn't going to be a single number. It's not going to be an equation of a line. It's going to look like a coordinate. So you will have an x value and you will have a y value. And there will be brackets and there will be a comma. So if I have 2 points, so let's take this A and B, and I want to find halfway. It's simply a matter of finding halfway between the y values and halfway between the x values. And how do you find halfway? How do you find the middle? You take the average. So you would add the 2x values and divide by 2. And likewise, you would add the 2y values and divide by 2. And that's actually the formula. But you can do it in 2 different ways. And let's have a look. There's probably more ways you can do it, but I do it 2 different ways. So example 1, find the midpoint joining 3, 7 and 9, 11. Draw a quick sketch, and just so that you've got an idea where those points are. Now we know where those points are. I'm going to find the average and the middle of the x. So I want to find the middle of 9 and 3. So my x value, I'd add those values together and divide by 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. And likewise, I do the same for the y's. I want to find the middle of 7 and 11. So I do 7 plus 11 divided by 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9. Now you can't leave your answer like that. You'd have to write it as a point. 6 and 9. And that's your coordinate. The other method of doing it using the formula, you know the midpoint is we add the x's and divide by 2. And if you look up here, that's exactly what I've done. Added the x values and divided by 2. And likewise, the y's. Add the y's and divide by 2. Now, interestingly, you still have brackets here and you still have a comma. So if this 3 is x1, 7 is y1, then the 9 has to be x2 and the 11 y2. So we substitute in 3 plus 9 divided by 2. 7 plus 11 divided by 2. And we use a capital M to denote the midpoint. I didn't do it up here. You can put it there if you want. And you'll look, this is looking exactly like I did above. And we get M is 6 and 9. Which way do? I prefer this method. I don't see any reason to remember an extra formula if you don't need to. Let's have a look at example 2. Now, if you wanted to have a go at example 2 on your own now, pause the video. Okay, example 2. Find the midpoint joining -3, -1 and -1, 6. So I'll do it both methods. Plot some points. -3, 1, -1, 6. And that's a good idea for that diagram, because if you get an answer that doesn't look like it's going to be anywhere near that diagram, you know you've made a mistake. So I'm going to find the average or the middle of the x points. So I need to add them and divide by 2. So I've got -3 minus 1 over 2 Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. And this is a bit trickier because we've got those negatives. But if we look back at the previous page, you just added the numbers and divide by 2. You're finding the average. Likewise, y, add the y values, divide by 2. And it is perfectly okay to have a fraction in your answer. So here my answer would be negative 2, 2.5. If you prefer to use a formula, then that's fine. And sometimes people like the formulas, especially when they've got the negative values. It helps them, helps slow their thought processes down. Step by step, no careless errors are made. That's my favourite thing, careless errors. So I've got negative 3 plus a negative 1 divided by 2. Whoops, I forgot to label my points. That's x1, that's y1, that's x2, that's y2. So add my y's and divide by 2. And an advantage of this formula is that when you actually do it, you don't have to remember to put your answer back as a coordinate. It's already there. So there's pluses and minuses for both. Minus 4 over 2, 5 over 2. If you want to leave it as an improper fraction, that's okay as well. I'll write it as 2.5. Thank you.